Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Funnily Enough, where we have guests who have a lot of skills and a lot of talents and a lot of new things that they're doing in their life, but we try to get them, get to the human side of them, what drives them, the kind of things, thoughts they have in their heads. We try to break down all that and bring that out so that we can see the impact they have and also the person behind the impact that they're creating. So, which is what Funnily Enough is all about. And today, I'm really happy because our guest today is someone I cannot believe that she's not considered a superhero or she doesn't have superpowers because 24 hours in a day, I think she lives 48 hours every 24 hours we live, because as you'll see, she does a bunch of things, of very diverse things, which in my view at least don't have any connection with each other, but we'll try and unpack how is it that Dr. Menaka Manickaraj from Coimbatore is able to do so much with her time. Let me quickly introduce you. And Menaka, welcome, first of all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Sai. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah. Let me quickly read out your introduction because I think everybody needs to hear the full story. Dr. Menaka Manickaraj is a practicing preventive and pediatric dentist, former associate professor of pediatric dentistry with 21 years of clinical experience working exclusively with children as a doctor, a teacher, social worker, and critical thinking educator. She strongly believes that children are overprotected in the real world and underprotected in the virtual world, and this imbalance is at the heart of her work. Since 2015, through the Silent Hijack, an evidence-based talk, she has been creating awareness about the impact of screens on children and families. With 172 sessions across many schools, 5 NGOs, government institutions, and socially and economically disadvantaged communities, she has reached more than 15,000 participants and 1,000 plus families. Her Screen Safe School program and Screen Smart Community initiatives provide structured interventions that help families reclaim real-world connections and childhood itself. Beyond digital wellness, she works in performing arts, science communication, and outdoor experiential learning. Having directed 31 plays and organized critical thinking conferences, she uses theater, debate, and science communication to nurture independent thought. At Kani Nilam, her family farm, she conducts Bharati recitals, theater-based learning, scientific inquiry conferences, and nature-driven education programs, all aimed at getting families outdoors and off their screens. She firmly believes that children are likely to live up to what we believe of them, and has no doubt that self-regulation is the only way to attain lasting change. Like I said, Dr. Menaka, I just cannot believe that you've done so much in the last 10 years, literally, directing plays, organizing conferences, full load of work, clearly, because you're still a practicing dentist, teaching. So how do you do all this? Like, what is it? How do you time slice? And what is the underlying theme behind all of this?
I mean, I don't, this is something that I get asked a lot, but it's actually not that complicated because I don't do a lot of all of these things. I pick and choose. I'm very specific with the time that I allot for each of these things. And I think the one thing that I did right was, and this is for all the young women and men also who are listening, as a parent, as a mother, I decided that the first, I think, almost the 10 years was completely, I was almost completely available as a mother. And so, like, by the time they were 6 or 7, my children were quite independent, uh, you know, and that gave me a lot of flexibility with my time. And if we don't give those first few years, the rest of your life, I think you're stuck trying to fix, so Saturdays and Sundays are strictly for family for me, and I do I do 4 days of dentistry, and 2 days I keep for other things like this. So all these things are related to children. So I never get bored, and I'm always motivated to do more and more of this. But like I said, obviously it's only 24 hours in a day, so I don't get to do a lot of all these things. I choose. So yeah.
Okay, so before we go further into this conversation, I want to play a little word game with you. And I think hopefully that'll be a good way to start a Sunday, because I know it's 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and we're all still recovering from having slept. So the word game is simple. I'm going to give you let me make sure my apps are running so I can get the timer started. I don't know if I have timer installed on this. Oh yeah, I do have the timer. So how it's going to work is that I will give you a word, a simple word that everybody recognizes, you also recognize, and your job will be to come up with a name, a place, an animal, and a thing associated with that word. And you get 30 seconds to answer. And you can answer first.
Just
And
one sec, my screen for some reason is not working. Sorry. Can't see myself. Wait. I'm really sorry about this.
Let me see if I can unspotlight you, then spotlight you back. Are you able to see me? That means the screen
I'm
is
only
on.
able to see you, and it's not my lap. I'm using my daughter's laptop. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Let me remove you from spotlight, then spotlight you back. I think that should do the trick. Add spotlight. Any better?
One sec. Yeah, it's better.
Oh, perfect. So are you ready to play that game? 30 seconds?
Yeah.
And you can answer first, explain later, or explain while answering. All right? But you get only 30 seconds, not more than that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. The word for you, Dr. Menaka, is coffee. So a name, a place, an animal, and a thing associated with coffee.
Coffee. Okay. Name is Ratna, and place actually Coimbatore. Animal and coffee is a little difficult, but yeah. What is that cat?
I was thinking of that too.
Sorry?
The civet cat.
The civet cat, yeah. And the thing would be a filter.
All right. So do you want to explain your answers? Why did you come up with this?
Yeah. So Ratna is my mom. She makes the best filter coffee in the world. Okay. So I learned to make filter coffee from her, and I'm kind of almost as good as her now. So yeah, my first association with coffee is my mom's, and I grew up with my relatives coming home. They would prefer mom's coffee to Annapurna coffee, which is a famous filter coffee in Coimbatore. So they would come all the way home just for her filter coffee. So then I always associate coffee with mom. And place Coimbatore again because this Annapurna filter coffee is quite famous, and I'm actually quite what to say. The only thing that I'm fussy about is my coffee. And so when I travel, I take my filter with me, and I take my Narasu's coffee powder with me. That's the only thing actually. There's nothing else that I'm so picky about. So name, place, animal, yeah. Or it's very obvious, right? That's the only animal I could think of. Thing, filter, like I said. Right. Not just any coffee, but it has to be that filter coffee, and it has to be made right. So yeah.
All right. So for the people who don't know about this animal thing that Menaka was referring to, there's an Indonesian cat, and there's a way of making coffee in Indonesia where the cat consumes the coffee beans and then excretes it, and then they pick out the coffee beans from that excretion and they make coffee out of that. And the idea is that because it's gone through the cat's gut, the outer shell of the coffee has been softened a little and the coffee flavor is enhanced. I've tried that coffee. I couldn't tell the difference, but I'm too much of a, I'm too low level to be understanding the nuances of coffee. So you've spoken about your mother, and I believe they have an experiential farm of some sort that you're also associated with. So what is that like? What is this place that you're talking about that people can go and check out in Coimbatore, near Coimbatore?
Yeah, so my mom, she's a natural farmer. Right now, she's in Chennai. She's actually receiving an award for natural farming. So my parents have been doing. My dad is actually a pediatrician. He's still practicing, but he's also very passionate about farming. So the two of them, for the last 20 years, have been completely into natural farming. So when actually organic and natural farming was not heard of, not many people knew about it, but ever since they started, they haven't gone back. So they do something called zero budget farming, which is like an integrated farming. It's called Subhash Palekar's method. So the whole farm is literally like a forest. It's a beautiful space. They grow a lot of different things. They grow pepper. They grow all sorts of fruits and vegetables and everything. And as a part of my work, which is basically like you read out, is getting children outdoors, getting families outdoors, because that's one of the big issues that we face, that we have all entertainment indoors and nobody wants to leave. So I do this thing called Once Upon a Farm, which is getting children and getting parents outdoors. And we do like a walk through the farm. We have so right from harvesting pepper to feeding all the animals there, handling earthworms, learning about them, beekeeping, tasting the honey, and harvesting the honey. There are different things that we grow. So there's cocoa, there's a fig tree. So yeah, so children get to experience all of this in a day. So now there are a lot of schools in Coimbatore that have started sending their children for their day trips, field trips. So a lot of children come, and also Amma does. The government sends interns to work under her to learn from her. So the agriculture students from the government colleges, they are sent to Amma. So they come for like a week or 10 days, and they learn from her. They get a certificate and they go back. Also, the high school children from government schools do come for internships under her. So yeah.
Did your kids, I'm sure that your parents had that farm even while your kids were young.
Yeah.
Did they go into the farm? Did you actually get them out and helping in the farm and all those things?
Yes, a lot. So my children's first few years before school started, it was like almost every day they were there, and even after, weekends would be there. So my daughter, when she was 6 in grade 1, she could climb the coconut tree, and
all the way to the top.
Yes, all the way to the top. I even have the first coconut that she brought down. I have the video. Yeah.
Terrified. I mean, my son he's 5 now. I'd be terrified in 1 year if he's climbing the tall coconut tree. I'd be terrified.
Everybody who saw the video were like, "What sort of a mom are you?" I mean, there's no harness, nothing, but I was so sure, because that was one thing that I was very clear about, that they have to be, physically pushed to their capacity as much as possible. So I knew she would be okay. I was very confident. Everybody else was freaking out. And she went up and came down. Actually, coming down is supposed to be the difficult part, because you slide down, right? And you get scratched on your chest. But she was calm and composed. She came down slowly all the way, and she brought the coconut down.
Full height, like proper
full height. Yeah.
I didn't know this. I mean, you never get to know all that. That's the purpose of
this. So she just last week came back from her basic mountaineering course. I went and picked her up. I surprised her there in Manali. So everybody keeps telling me, "How did you decide? How did you?" I said, "It's not a decision that you make at 17 or 18. It's something you need to do right from the beginning, for them to mentally and physically be able to cope with that kind of stress."
So this is a positive kind of stress. I mean, being outdoors, challenging yourself to climb trees and protect yourself even when doing dangerous activity. Now, this is an excellent segue into something that's written in your biography about children being underprotected online and overprotected in person.
Yeah.
What is the impact of that? How is it affecting children today that they're not able to, they're underprotected online and overprotected in person? How is it impacting them? What are you seeing in your clinics?
So firstly, there is actually something called nature deficit disorder.
What?
Nature deficit disorder.
Every conversation I have with you, I'm learning something new.
Yeah. So what are we seeing? Firstly, it's extremely vital part of development, especially the first few years. I think the children need the freedom outdoors. And I always ask parents, most of the parents, right, they come, they say they're not eating enough. That's one thing with Indian parents. Like, everybody thinks their child is not getting enough food, right? And they also think that the child does not know when to eat and how to eat. And the simple question I ask them is, do you need to tell your pup or a kitten, right? Do we go force feed them? Do you tell them that we've not eaten enough, and do we force feed them? And then yet, a human child, we are supposed to be one of the most evolved species. We believe that we need to tell them when to eat and how much to eat, and all these things, when to sleep and how much to sleep and how much to rest, and all these things. And from day one, this obsession of parents is what is making parenting such a big deal. because we obsess over a lot of things which we actually don't need to, I think. Of course, when they start going to school, there is a set routine and therefore they have to eat at these particular times. But at least we can give them the flexibility of choosing how much they want to eat, right? So I feel the children are being kept indoors so much, and they now because they're getting a lot of their stimulation from screens, right?
Mhm.
So the motivation to go out is not there because they're getting their highs anyway,
Mhm.
right? Earlier, we would sit inside and be bored,
Mhm.
and then we would be motivated to go do something, either outdoors or at least, think of something, do something indoors. But now there is absolutely zero motivation because we are getting our stimulation and we are getting our dopamine highs from doing something that's completely useless.
Mhm.
And, so all the more emphasis earlier, like I never believed that we had to plan holidays and things like that, but today I would say parents have to plan holidays because the children are going to be indoors and they have something ready made. There are iPads, there are phones, there are TVs, there's so many screens inside, that unless and until we preemptively plan
Mhm.
for a holiday
Mhm.
and decide that my child is going to go to this camp, is going to go visit these people, or is going to go for these classes, or I'm going to take my child, or I'm going to engage with my child, uh, within the first 3 to 5 days, they fall into this trap of binge watching screens.
Mhm.
Uh, and children, they come, yeah, sorry.
I'm just curious, when you say binge watching, is it like hours and hours of TV that children or screens that children consume on a daily basis, or is it less
Yes,
than
I
hours?
have I have 4 5 year olds who watch 6 to 8 hours, 10 hours.
Mhm. Wow.
Yeah, and whenever I take the history and I ask screen time, and they'll say "romba kami" in Tamil, it's like very less.
Mhm.
That it's very relative. So
Mhm.
for some parent, very less would be half an hour, and for some it would be 3 hours. So what is less and more is like extremely relative. So we have to keep um, I have to take specifics like, what type of screen, how much, and how many hours on weekdays, on weekends.
Mhm.
And sometimes they only talk about TV. Then when you go into the phone, so I have to like point out, what about the drive to the clinic in the car? What
Mhm.
about when you were waiting outside? Did you give the phone? Because those are all things. So most often the estimate is, it's an underestimate actually that the parents give me. So when they say two, I know automatically that it's actually four. So
And so the impact of this is that children, what is happening to children? You said nature deficit disorder. What else is there that's happening to children because of this?
So basically, so like for example, if you're looking at a ultrasound, right, of a baby, like when in a pregnant, you know that okay, at 8 weeks you need to see this milestone, at 12 weeks, right. Similarly, even postnatally, right, there are certain milestones that need to be achieved, and there are some developmental windows in which
Mhm.
the development happens at the ideal rate, right? So for language and social skills and communication skills, also there are these timelines, and of course there is a little bit of shift between the genders itself, boys and girls. There's a little bit of a difference, and individually also there is a difference. But where screens are playing a role is like I can tell when a child walks in at 7 or 8 years of age from a lot of things that what I call a screen impacted child.
Mhm.
What are these things? The first thing, they walk in, they don't make eye contact, they're looking at everything else but the people there,
Mhm.
right? They're very distracted, and there's no contextual speech. So you try making a conversation with a child. For example, when a child walks in, I'd like to build a rapport with a child. I would say something like, what did you have for breakfast, how was your day at school? And they randomly spit out facts. They're randomly talking about something else, or they're not even responding to you. They don't even turn and look at you sometimes. This happens. And usually these children are also a little bit more fidgety. Again, there are overlaps, right? A lot of things that I'm saying might sound like an ADHD child also. So I'll come to that later. But so not able to hold on to a thought. They keep, blurting out stuff. They don't wait for somebody to finish a sentence. Um, there's overreaction to things, like sometimes, emotional meltdowns or tantrums or anger outbursts. Again,
This happens
sorry.
in your clinic. These events.
Yeah. Because for me, see, pediatric dentistry is 90% psychology and behavior and 10% dentistry. Because until I get past that, there's no way a 3-year-old is going to sit on a chair and cooperate for an injection and a root canal, right? So, and unlike a vaccine, which is 1 minute, a pediatric dental appointment is 30 to 45 minutes. If I'm going to get a 3-year-old to sit, I first have to, make sure that the child completely trusts me. Yeah. Sorry.
So the rapport building and that all that stuff. So children at the age of 3 are getting root canals. Is it like a? I don't have a root canal myself. Like what is it that's happening in society that children at the age of 3, 4 are getting root canals?
I think a lot of things. First thing is the awareness. Probably it was happening earlier also, but we just let them. But now with the awareness, we know that early childhood caries is a very serious concern. And of course, we have all these other things like our lifestyle changes, nuclear families, mothers being overworked. There's a lot more sugar in our food. There's a lot more refined stuff in our food, and there's a lot more available. Right, there's a lot more parties happening, there's a lot more, all that is happening. And I don't know if you will remember, but when I remember my grandmom, for every baby, after the baby is breastfed, they would, like put their finger in and clean it and all that. None of that is being done now. That's actually a good thing. It doesn't have to be traumatic like the way they used to do it. The babies are screaming, you can do it gently, and that is not being done. And I guess it was already there, but it's increased a lot more now.
Right. And again, in terms of gender differences in child development, I don't know much about. I mean, I'm sure there are gender differences. I'm told that girl children develop faster, better vocabulary, better awareness of life. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but is that something that you observe? And is that how does screen availability impact that and those kind of outcomes?
I do see boys being affected a lot more, I would say. Very, very typical. Because the tendency is, again, many of the studies that were done show that boys do tend to move towards, inanimate objects and, mechanical stuff and things like that. So their automatic tendency for screens is higher, right? In the older age group, it's different how boys, what they use it for and what girls use it for. But even in the early years, also one of the reasons I'm seeing that boys are being affected more is because boys tend to be more physical, right? They're more active generally. So there's a lot more energy, there's a lot more, physical activity, running around and all that. And now this has become an easy, convenient tool for behavior management where parents put them on screens, right? Usually, so boys are put more on screens also compared to girls, meaning that even though the children are not asking for it, parents start using it, for making them sit down and not misbehave, not interrupt, and things like that. So they're getting affected more. But girls are also getting affected. But if you ask me the gender differences between, it's basically the content that the children are consuming. For example, the boys are like, I had a boy day before yesterday. He is only 6.5. And the number of video games that he told me that he plays was like crazy. Like, I started writing in my case history. And after a point, I just stopped because I just wrote 3. And after that, I just let him talk because there was so much. And girls are generally, again, there is a lot of, the typical stuff that we're doing, unicorns and princess girls, and the boys are watching, different things. But in the older age group, in adolescence, it's very established that there is enough data to show that the girls are more on social media and the boys are more on games and other things. So, yeah, their interests are different, and the way they get affected is also different. Yeah.
All right. So switching tracks a little bit, and let's get into the theater aspect of your life. I know you directed 31 plays. What in theater attracts you? What kind of you're a performer yourself? How's that informed how you interact with children and the work you do for the betterment of children?
Yeah, so dance has been a part of my life, all my life actually. So how this happened was actually I was teaching in dental college, and to be honest, I didn't find the satisfaction there because students who come after 18, they already have a very set way of studying, right? Learning. So introducing new ways of learning was not really working because they wanted notes and they wanted, that's what they were used to.
And what were you asking them? Sorry, well, what were you asking? You're not willing to give them notes. What was it that you were offering to them that they were not willing to take from you?
They had to refer textbooks. I would take case histories, and I would take a lot of actual real examples of the cases I've seen and things like that. I would teach them. And in a when you're doing your dentistry, you're not expected to study from notes. You need to go to the library and refer a lot of books and study. And also by then, by 2013, slowly, when you give them an assignment, they're using Google. And I'm sure now it's way worse. I'm glad I got out of it when it wasn't so bad. But yeah, I loved teaching, but it was just not really. Sometimes it was very difficult, to correct those papers. So then I quit college teaching and I went into school teaching immediately the same year. Like within a month, I joined an alternative school. And when I joined the school, it was a really small community. And because I was crazy about Bharatiyar, I started, the school also wanted me to take Bharatiyar to the children. So we did Bharati poetry for like a year. And during which time I experimented a little bit with making a little play out of it and things like that. So then the school wanted me to take up theater. And then I started with directing a play, and I really loved it. And then we got very good feedback from the parents and the children as well. So there was a request saying, let's integrate it into the curriculum and let's do drama the whole year through. So then that's how I started. So I started doing drama through the entire year, not just focused on performing a play, but as a part. So then I developed my own curriculum so now I call it Let's Act, the full form of which is Let's Get Our Act Together, which is focused on life skills and social skills through drama. Basically, being able to take a no, not speaking out of context, holding on to a thought, being able to follow some agreements, things like that through, theater activities and drama. So, yeah.
And have you, like, these kids who are experiencing all this, doing all these things, there's somebody at the door. Give me 1 quick second. Okay, I'll be right back.
Sure.
Sorry, somebody's at the door. I had to let them in. So I was asking, so when it comes to drama and dance and all that, so you had to invent your own curriculum. There was no prescribed curriculum. One, that's question number one. Question number two is, you said you talked about Bharatiyar. And maybe for the people who don't know what Bharatiyar, maybe you could give us a 2-minute summary of his life and his work. And thirdly, are this year-long curriculum that you developed, does it end in a production, or is it just
Yes.
like, oh, you did? Okay, cool. So why don't you tell us about all these things?
So basically, I go with the kind of framework for that class, knowing the age group, because like I said, it's 21 years of just children. So I kind of have an idea what that age group, what would work for them. But I always keep my options open. So I go first 2 classes, I get an idea of the children and the dynamics there and where the level that they are. And then I start. So by the second term, right, I start deciding on what kind of a play would work for them. And we start working on, sometimes we write our own script and I involve the children and we write it. Sometimes if it's a very young class, then I decide a topic and we take. Sometimes I take plays that are already there, like Alice in Wonderland, Dr. Dolittle, and all these things, and kind of, edit it a little bit and do it. And the second term, or the second part of the second term usually goes towards production. So we work on that play. And the third term, I keep exclusively for reflection. And every child, we start the third term with, they reflect on how it went, and what is the one thing that they would want to better about themselves when it comes to theater. And the rest of the term, each child individually kind of identifies the one thing, and all the activities that are presented in the next term, they focus on improving that. And then we again do a reflection at the end of the term to see, so they grade themselves on that, say it's voice or modulation or body language, whatever it is. There are some children who would say discipline. So they themselves feel that they were not able to sit quietly backstage. I'm talking about children as young as third grade, fourth grade. They would say things like, I was disturbing everybody backstage. I was not disciplined. And that's what I'm going to focus on. So different children will have different things. And whatever activity we do, they are directed to focus on that one goal that they've set for themselves. And then we see how it goes. But I definitely think like theater is an extremely powerful tool, to bring about a lot of behavioral changes in children. And I'm seeing it, and I get good feedback from the parents as well. Yeah.
So, related question. You have 3 terms in which the workshop runs over 3 terms. Not the workshop, the class runs over 3 terms.
Yeah, this was in relation to a school. Right now, yeah, I'm also working with schools, but I also do it privately. Yeah, sorry.
So what happens at the end of every term? Because parents will ask for a report card and an entry.
Yeah, I do give a report.
So is it like a essay type report, or do they have to answer an exam at the end of every term, or perform?
No exam. It's something that my observation through every class. So I do make very meticulous notes every class for every child. So yeah, so the report will be a one-on-one with the parent, where I meet them in person and give them, because again, like I said, it's about life skills and social skills. So I do pick up a lot of things, from the interactions with the children. Like for example, one of my the last year for 6 months, I had a course with a group of children, where I had also promised the parents that by the end of the first 3 months, these children will show 100% self-regulation when it comes to screens. So it was drama class, but we had a lot of the silent hijack woven into it, and they were very young children. And so as a part of this thing, every week they would be given one task, simple task, like read a story with your parent or go for a walk with your parents, things like that, which was again, taking them off screen, something that's a screen-free activity, which is very doable and simple. But I would see in a class of, say, 12 children, there would be 8 or 9 children who are able to do it. And then there would be these 3 or 4 children who, through the 12 weeks, were not able to do that one walk with the parent. This is not a trek or anything. This is just like around your apartment or just... So then you also get to see what the home environment is. And so what is the feedback that you give the parents, right? And it helps that I'm a doctor, because I'm able to give this advice and not, sometimes I use that and say,
The credibility of being a doctor, you can use that.
Yeah. Because you can't advise parents anymore. But I don't advise, but I give my observations. And it's very often the children don't want to blame the parents. So they would say, mom is very busy, or my parents are very busy, auntie, I can't do this. They can't do this for me. But you see where the problem lies, right? Yeah.
This is really interesting that first of all, I learned that children are able to be so self-aware that they say, I was being disruptive, I was not being a good team player, realizing that about themselves. Secondly, that they are sort of protecting their parents from bad opinions of the doctor or the teacher. Like, do you see, this is a revelation to me. I didn't know that. I'm sure I was also a kid. I probably did something similar, but what goes on in a child's mind when they realize that they are the problem sometimes, that they are the ones disrupting everybody and causing, problems for other people, or when they have to say, okay, I was wanting to go for a walk, but my dad was not available. And what happens in that? When did the transition happen, for example?
It's not like there's no real transition, and this doesn't hold good for all children, so I'll correct myself there. It's not like every child is protecting. There are some children who protect, there are some children who will, I'll have to stop them and redirect them, because sometimes they're telling too much from, they're like, my father, he can't be off the phone, he's always on the phone, I can't even talk to him about, sometimes they are like that. And it all actually depends upon, most of the time, except, yeah, there are individual differences between the children and their temperaments are different, but most often it depends upon the relationship that we have with the child. So I see a variety of things that can happen with parents who are like over authoritative or things. Because I'll give a small example of a child who comes to me and I say, so we're going to pull out a tooth today and you get ice cream. And there are children who will actually tell me, I don't like ice cream, I don't want ice cream. I'm like, why? I don't like ice cream. And then I'll say, do you really not like ice cream? And then the child will make eye contact with the parent. And then I say, do you not like ice cream, or do you think it's bad for you? It's bad for me. So I said, so you like ice cream? Then, it's, so what I'm trying to say is the child has been told so many times by the parent that it's bad for you, bad for you, bad for you, that the child now is convinced that he should not like it also, right? And he's also trying to impress the adult in front of them. So they say, that means I'm a good child if I don't like ice cream because it's bad for me. So that can happen. And so every child responds to these things in very different ways. But very often when what the adult tells because we are made like that, like all mammals, we're made to look up to the adults around us and to learn from them, right? So that becomes your truth. Whatever the parent is telling you and whatever is happening around becomes your truth. And then around 9, 10, 11, is when they start seeing that this person has been telling me all this, but they're not actually this. And then the adolescent comes in, then adolescence comes in, and then they start questioning you, and then the parents become very uncomfortable at that point because the child is not questioning. Yeah.
So I want to go off into, regulating children to regulating parents. But before we do that, I want to remind you, if you give us a two-minute biography of Bharatiya. So for the people who don't know much about.
Yeah. 2 minutes. Okay. So no, because if I start talking about Bharati, I can go on for like hours. So I need to. So Bharati, he's known as Bharatiyar or Mahakavi or Mundasakavi. He has a lot of names by which he's known. He basically lived between 1880s to 1920s. He died at the age of 38. He was a proper rebel. Okay, he wrote a lot about he was there, of course, during the freedom struggle. So he wrote a lot of patriotic poetry, devotional poetry. He was from a little town near Madurai, and he was completely against casteism, and he was a total rebel. So he sported a big mush, which was, he was born into a Brahmin family, but he had this big mush, and he wore a turban, and he wore a dhoti and a jacket or coat on top. So yeah, even the way he looked was very different, basically. So this man didn't get any recognition while he lived, basically because everything he wrote was, not politically correct at that point. So yeah, he didn't get a lot of recognition, and now people are talking about him. And I was introduced to Bharati as a little child when I was 9 or 10 years old. My father used to talk about him a lot. But when we visited Pondicherry, he took us to this house where Bharati was in exile for 3 years. So there was an arrest warrant against him, and he had gone to Pondicherry because, and he was living there in a friend's house. And my dad took me there, and then I saw the table that he used, the chair that he sat on, the pens that he used, the handwritten notes and letters and things like that. And it was very magical for me. And I think ever since that day, I've not let go of this Bharatiyar book, and I started reading at 10. Until today, I'm still fascinated by his work, and I'm very, very inspired by his.
What topics did he write about? I know he mentioned patriotic and nationalistic themes, but
He wrote he wrote a lot of poetry for children about nature, and even about God, his idea of God, and even on science. So about molecules and atoms and gravity and the wind and all the elements and different things like that. He also wrote a lot of prose, and he also wrote plays and essays. So he was very, very, very versatile. And there's like this spark, you'd speak of Bharati, you think of the spark, the fire in him, because I don't know, every time I recited Bharati's poetry to even an audience that had no idea, didn't know Tamil at all, they would still tell me that they could get the essence of it from the way it sounds itself. So he does use a lot of powerful onomatopoeia and things like that. So there is really something about his poetry that resonates with everyone that listens.
And if you could clarify what onomatopoeia is, because it sounds like a fancy Greek word. What does it mean?
The onomatopoeia means where you use the word itself sounds like the meaning of the word. Like, for example, hiccup. In Tamil, it is vikkal. In Hindi, it is hichki, right? The word itself sounds like the meaning. So when you say
like clink and tinkle and all those things.
Yeah, all those words, any of those words. So, for example, when he writes about rain, he uses words, that sound like the thunder, like the rain and the pitter patter, raindrops and things like that, that it kind of brings that scene alive for anyone who doesn't even understand the language. So,
speaking of language, I'm curious about this. You must have read it in the original Tamil and also probably some English translations here and there. So if today I were to want to read a Bharatiyar poem, right, or some work of his, should I not bother because the Tamil version is going to be so much deeper and so much richer versus reading the English version? Or do you think that the same message and the depth carries over from Tamil to English also in his translation?
Definitely not, because I think that holds good for any language, right? When you translate, you cannot keep to the essence. So yeah, it is very difficult, but then we don't have a choice. You can't learn the entire language like that. So I think if you're reading a book, yeah, you read a translation, but if you can actually attend a workshop, so I do this thing called Nan Kanda Bharati, which is the Bharati that I saw, Nan Kanda Bharati, so it's for a mixed audience. It's for people who know Tamil very well, and it's also for people who don't know Tamil. So where I do the translations also, but then bringing it alive with percussion and movement and things like that, using theater. We used recently for his birthday. So every year for his birth anniversary and death anniversary, I have these things where it's an open circle. Anybody joins in. So last year we used like the Forum Theater thing to bring alive one of the scenes. So yeah, it's very difficult to translate it for someone.
And I believe you also have a Bharatiya related, I don't know, shrine or room or museum. I don't know what to call it.
It's like an open performance space in the farm. It's called Kani Nilam. Kani Nilam is the name of one of his poems. It refers to Kani is a measurement in ancient Tamil Sangam literature of land, and it approximately translates to 1.3 acres. Nilam means land. So it's one poem where he writes to Parashakti and asks her for this piece of land where he says, I want this little house and I want it in this color. I want the curtains like this, and I want about 10 to 12 coconut trees around, and I want the moonlight to shine in front of the house. And it's a very, very, very beautiful poem. And he also talks about how he would sit and read poetry to his lover there, and he actually tells Parashakti, while you stand guard at the entrance and make sure that nobody comes in. So it's almost like he's like commanding her, he speaks it's not like he speaks, it's almost like you and me are equals, and you do this for me while I'm, with my lover, and we're singing and dancing. So it's a very beautiful poem, and it never materialized for him because he died poor. There were 14 people at his funeral. He had absolutely no recognition when, till he died, because he was basically rebelling against everything. So people didn't like him much. So this space I built during COVID, which is dedicated to him, and it's also dedicated to the performing arts.
Wait. Do you see a bit of a rebel in yourself also from Bharati? Where do you put yourself on the scale of 0 to Bharati? Where do you put yourself as a rebel?
As a rebel, oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it should be called rebelling, but I don't know if I totally agree with that. I'm a rebel, but I do question a lot of things.
And do you encourage your kids and the kids who come to you for coaching and mentoring and guidance? Do you encourage them to also be rebels?
Yes, that's the number one thing that I tell them. Question everything and never stop questioning. And every class of mine, every lecture starts with children. I love challenges. Challenge me, question me. It's not about asking doubts. It's like challenge me.
In Indian culture, there is not really a space for children to question authority. Like you just said, Bharati, you yourself were surprised that Bharati was treating Parashakti as an equal. When you said it, I could see the skepticism in your eyes. So do you see that children actually challenging you, or does it take like half the class is spent in, or half the course of the time you have with the children is spent in convincing them that you're genuine, that you genuinely want to be challenged?
It's so true. I mean, it's crazy actually how much children need to be told, and it's not easy that they come out, because for 10 years or 9 years they've been in that system where they've not been allowed to question. So it's definitely not easy to get them out of it easily, and it also depends on the school. So we have matriculation schools, CBSE schools, we have private schools, we have alternate schools. What I see in all the alternative schools are the children are more forthcoming, they are more open to questioning and all that. When I go to the larger schools, which have 1,000 children in each class and all that, it is definitely. So what I do is I request the school that none of the school, like the teachers and nobody from the school, no representative from the school is there in my room when I'm speaking with the children. That itself kind of helps a little bit, but yeah. It does take, so usually 40 minutes or 45 minutes into my workshop is when children kind of start easing into it. The first half an hour is like quiet completely, and slowly they start. And towards the end, the last half an hour is when they actually start speaking up. And usually it's only after I finish that they catch me in the corridor and ask most of the questions. So it was a very, very relevant and important question that you asked, that children just don't ask questions. And though they're sitting with it, and they...
How do you create a space? I'm really, really curious about this. How do you create that space where children are feeling safe enough to say, you know what, I don't understand this. I don't believe what you said, or this, show me the proof for this. How do you do that? How do you create that space? Apart from being a friendly person, like, is there a cultural shift that can be brought about?
I think firstly for the adult to realize that you don't label someone. So you separate the behavior from the person. This is a person who is so many things, and this is a behavior. This is something that they're doing, and this behavior can change, right? So very often we say this child is very, we label them with whatever they do, right? Not disciplined, is this and is that. Yeah, but that's a part of the child, right? And that part can change once you are able to see the larger picture, and you're able to actually genuinely acknowledge the person that they are, and where this behavior comes from. And it's actually very easy, because also children, so I like to ask this question to adults whom I work with, on behavior management in class. And also, think of your favorite teacher. Who was your favorite teacher, school teacher growing up?
I have a person in mind. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
I mean, this answer has always been the same for me. I had a class teacher in grade 4 called Mrs. Suri. And she was, I loved her because she saw something in me that I wanted people to be able to see. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if my drive to be that person that she saw something in came first, or the seeing something in me came first. I don't know what it is. But Mrs. Suri, her impact on my life, I know it is still there today. because she makes me emotional when I talk about it, but give me a second. All right, I need to calm down because Mrs. Suri was so impactful for me. But yeah, go ahead.
So I'm guessing it was not her expertise in the subject. It was not, I mean, anything really related to the subject, but who she was as a person, right? And that's what children see. When you walk into a room, children see who you are as a person, right? And if you come across to someone as genuinely interested in them, right? Does not matter anything else, right? If you can be yourself in front of the child, and you can be your vulnerable self in front of the children, and they see you for who you are. It's those conversations outside of the classroom, it's those things that you do apart from the subject, and children are very quick to pick that up. They're very quick to pick that up. So they know from the way you speak. So are you able to be calm and be an adult in front of them when they are misbehaving or when they are pushing the buttons, right? It all depends on that, because they are a bunch of adults. I walked into a government school one day, 11th and 12th graders, boys, and the lady who took me into that class, she told me in Tamil, okay, I don't know the equivalent word for that, but like rogues or something. She said, Arathu pudicha pasanga, this, that, and they are this and they are that, and nobody lasts more than 5 minutes in this class. And will you believe it? I went on for 3 hours and they were still talking to me and asking me questions, and the whole class was there. Nobody was distracted. And when I left, the children came to me till the car. They had so many questions, and it's the same child, it's the same children. And what changes is how you are responding to all those,
Right,
you
right.
know. Yeah, I mean, that's an entire, like, I think few hours of conversation about, how do you encourage children to speak up by just being genuine. By They need to know that you're not judging them. They need to feel, like somebody is genuinely asking them a question, not just,
Right.
so it happens in the clinic also a lot, where parents tell me that he comes here and tells you everything. Like when the child walks in, I know, though I see them once a week, I know when their mood is a little off from their face, from their body language. I pick it up. And then I ask the child, what happened today? You don't look your usual self. There's something wrong. And then the child goes on for like 5-10 minutes about what happened in school that day and what happened with a friend or with a teacher or something. And the parents keep asking me, I keep asking what happened, what happened. They don't tell me. They come here, they tell you everything. They pick up something about how you ask, I think. I don't know. But they do open up a lot to me. Yeah.
All right, so now we're finally getting to the part where parental regulation. How do you, I mean, obviously we need children to be regulated, but what suggestions and tips do you have for parents to be the kind of adult in the child's life that you said, which is present and non-judgmental when you talk to them? All those things. What are the 2 or 3 things that parents can do today to be that person for their children?
I think number one thing would be to be truthful, as truthful as possible with everything.
Including, say, if I'm upset about something at work, or if my wife and I are having an argument about something, truthful about that, you saying?
About every small thing, right? Uh, I think parents, we approach children with some of our preconceived beliefs and assumptions. For example, that children don't like bitter gourd, they will not eat it, or this is a task that he's going to rebel, and therefore I have to. So children read these small things, right? So being very matter of fact, straightforward, and truthful right from the beginning is just actually so easy. Everything. So like I said, I give like these nerve blocks inside. Okay, it takes a full 15 to 20 seconds with that injection inside in different directions I have to give. And I do it for 3-year-olds every day. And children just cooperate. So brushing the teeth is no big deal. Feeding the child is no big deal, actually. And children don't do it out of fear. Out of fear, no child will cooperate. A child will run away or scream or cry and throw a tantrum. They don't do it out of fear. They do it out of they trust you because you've already informed them everything, you've told them everything, and then they just cooperate with you because they just trust you. So if you can earn the trust of a child by being truthful from day one, everything is actually a cakewalk. You
Right.
never, yeah. So from day one, just being extremely truthful with them works like magic. And uh, I think negotiables and non-negotiables, I do see a lot of parents stressing on a lot of things that should be a negotiable, and they make everything non-negotiable for the child, that now the child starts rebelling against everything, unless and until we say, okay, this is extremely important for me and therefore this is non-negotiable, and these are things that it's okay if it doesn't happen. Then there's some freedom for the child, right? If there's no breathing space for the child, it becomes very, and then the child is saying no to everything now.
Right. So essentially, you're saying find a way to earn trust by being as transparent as possible. And
Yeah, how do I put this? I think before the thing started, we were talking about how in our culture we have the habit of actually lying to the child, right? Parents hate it when I use the word lie, but that's what we are doing actually day in and day out, where we say, if you don't do this, Sami kannu kutti, like, the God will punish, or if you don't do that, or if you do this, I'll buy you something. And there was this parent who actually said something, and I said, but why are you telling him that he needs to get this done? It is needed for him, so we're doing it. You don't need to bribe him for this, right? Why? So the lady said, no, no, ma'am, I'm just telling it. I won't get it for him. I said, that's even worse, right? So not only are you telling your child that you're going to bribe him, now you're telling me that you won't do it because you got the work done. And this is something that is happening day in and day out in different ways. And we're not looking beyond that one task that we need to achieve with the child. And I think if we start looking at this child as someone who's going to grow up into an adult with all these experiences, and each one of these things are going to add up to who he is as a person later on, and how he is going to, his relationship with the world or the adults around him, we would be more careful. And yeah, we need to unlearn a lot of things as parents, I think.
Monica, I'm going to quickly interrupt you because I think it's nearly 9 o'clock. And I
Yeah.
think we have a couple of, I think Samina is there. So anybody has any questions for Menaka, please jump in. Otherwise, we'll play one more word game and then we can call it a day. Samina, Shabana, any thoughts you have on the conversation we had? Any questions you have for Dr. Menaka?
I have one question. I just wanted to know the name of the poet that you discussed, Bharti, because I tried to search, I couldn't find it.
Bharathi, Bharati, Mahakavi, Mahakavi, Mahakavi Bharati you can look for, or you can look for Subramanya Bharati.
Mhm.
You'll definitely find him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think from what little I know of Tamil Nadu and the culture there, though I'm a Tamilian, I don't really know. I grew up in the north, so I don't know much about Tamil culture. I think Bharati is one of those, like the
Icon.
main poets and thought leaders back in the day. They were thought leaders, were writers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found someone who was born in long ago, but you are mentioning someone who is recent, right?
Not very recent, yeah.
We can find out. Shabana, if you want, I can check with Menaka and we can share some, or she can share some.
Yeah. I do also have some good translations that I can suggest to you.
Right.
Maybe on WhatsApp later.
Cool.
It was very inspiring to listen, and all the now I really get why Sai was saying you are doing so many different things. So that's really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabana. Yeah.
Right. Samina, is anything that you want to ask or share? Otherwise, we can play that one last word game and then we're done. I don't know if Samina is there or not.
Yes, good morning. I'm very keen to know more about her, but the thing is, I joined late. So now I'll have to see the recording or call her up because I also do life skills and also same like her teaching in colleges. So the thing is, what I want is, people like-minded people who will get into the groove of doing things for teens and for of course all ages children, so that parents get the idea. As you said, we can't advise them because actually it would look very rude, but at least we can bring the point that why children are being neglected today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll pass on. I mean, Shavana, I don't know if Shavana has Dr. Menaka's number, but I pass on the number and you guys can obviously reach out to her and talk to her
Sure,
directly.
please. Yeah. Shabana knows me, I've been a speaker on this platform, but recently I've not been
Oh, it's
giving
always a
my
good time to
talk.
start again. Why, you should be part of Mavin. It'll be a good,
Pardon?
it'll be good to have you back as a speaker on Mavin.
Of course, of course. And I like this method of you questioning her and, she rather than a one-piece monologue,
Right.
because this also speaks the questions which the audience has in mind, which you are asking. So do you always do this pattern?
That's usually the way. I've only done 3 so far. This is my 3rd interview on the Funnily Enough series. But the past 2 were also the same flow that people were talking and just interrupt and ask questions, and then we keep moving the conversation forward. All right, Dr. Menaka, are you ready for the last word game, and then we can end this?
Yeah.
All right, same format. One word, name, place, animal thing. Same thing. Okay. This time I'm going to give you something a little harder. And oh no, maybe not so hard because you already think about it all the time. Poetry. But you can't say Bharati, okay?
Oh, I can't say Bharati. Okay.
I know,
Poetry. Apart from Bharati, whom can I think of? Yeah, maybe Avayar. Avayar for name, place, and poetry is home, my house where I grew up. Animal and poetry.
You're running out of time. You're running out of time.
Peacock. Animal thing for poetry is a pen. So boring, but yeah.
So this is a low stress game. You don't have to feel bad about not finishing on
Yeah.
time. Okay. So Avayar is he another Tamil poet? I think I've heard.
Yeah. She's another poet that my dad used to speak about a lot. So I did get to hear a lot about Avayar. So yeah, she's also written a lot of interesting poems and work that I want to explore that I haven't explored enough. Place, I said home because that was where my inspiration, my dad and like every day, every single thing that he would say would be a pun on something, and he would always talk about even movie songs. He would tell me about who the lyricist was and what was the political scenario then and how he arrived at it. So a lot of my interest in poetry comes from my dad. So place is home. uh, Animal, peacock, because I think in Indian literature we use, at least in Tamil poetry, they use a lot of, the mile quill, we say mile quill, and all these things come in a lot. And what did I say? Thing, a pen, because I was running out of time basically. So that's the first thing.
So now you know how your kids feel when you have exams for them. Aha, see?
Sorry?
Now you know how your kids feel when you have a time-based exam, 30 seconds or 30 minutes you have to answer an exam.
Yeah. But again, that's important as well, right? Time management.
Right. So anyway, thank you, Dr. Menaka, for sharing your
Thanks, Sai. Yeah, I've always had very interesting conversations with you. I mean, like the very few that we've had, but it was quite interesting. I was telling my daughter yesterday about our conversation at the PSAI meet, and
we have a lot more that we have not talked about. Some of the stuff that we discussed at PSAI, I didn't even get a chance to bring that up. Maybe we will have another opportunity later on in this series.
Yeah, sure. We should do that sometime. Thanks a lot. And I'm sorry if I didn't give you time to speak at all. I think I was going on and on, not giving you a chance to stop me and ask questions.
My job is to just listen and maybe ask a question or two, which helps you think and unpack a little more. So I think we both did our jobs, I think. That's what I feel.
But we also saw Sai's emotional part today.
Dude, don't get me started. I felt so embarrassed about that. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
No, I think it's fine. I think it drives home the point even more, right? Because that's the impact those teachers did have on us. Like I also have a couple of teachers like that I get emotional about. Yeah.
My wife will tell you this. I cry for nothing. The first time we met in person, we went for a movie. We actually went for a movie, Hitchki. And I got emotional during that movie. She's like, what the hell is this? Why is the guy crying in the middle of a movie? She's like, okay, I can trust this guy. If he cries, I can trust this guy. That's what she said to me later.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah. Thank you, Shabana, and thank you, Dr. Min, and thank you, Samina, for being part of this.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Can
Sai.
I-
Thanks, Shabana and Sarmina. I would definitely like to get to know you better, and I'll take your numbers from Sai.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes,
Thank-
please. Yes. And I want to hear the conversations or the earlier talks. If you have in a recording, you could send it through Shabana. Shabana will give you my number. And the thing is, we could always have a more the merrier. So if we can brainstorm on this, it would be beneficial to us as individuals and to society.
Right. So
Right?
I'll share the numbers and you guys can connect and figure out how
Yeah.
to work
Yeah.
together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a
One
nice
of you
Sunday.
can end the meeting if you want. I don't know what to do. Do you want me to end?
Sorry.
Do you want me to
Pardon?
end? Okay, I think looks like the meeting is over. Thanks everyone for being part of this. I'll talk to you.